I was so anxious to make a move. I was laying further back towards the headboard, and I was kind of like just staring at her head, the backside of her head, figuring out what type of move I was gonna make. And I was doing that for like a long time. And then eventually she says, I know you're looking at me. She said it in a way that she was not pleased, because I was being a creep. So in the last segment, I know I said part 7 would be all about this girl, but I realized I need to break it up into 2 videos. So this video is just really the intro to part 7. There's some background I need to go over to make the story more complete. So where we dropped off at, I explained I quit Uber. I had some expenses, but not that much. So I resumed working back at the computer shop, but just about 2 days a week. And at this time in 2016, I had just started getting back into rap music. Once I started getting into the new age and the occult, I wanted to become somebody else, and I deleted almost all my rap. It's like once you join the occult, the new age, whatever you call it, just some belief system that's not of God, it can be compared to being born again, but not in a good way. Once you commit to this type of belief system that's ungodly, it's like you're reborn into a different person that's more devoted to serving Satan. But the new age and the vegan cult I was in had its own culture, and rap music really wasn't a part of that. I wanted to fit in, neglected some parts of who I was, what I liked, and I actually started to speak, walk, and talk different. And when I got back to America, people recognized that I changed. So after about a 4-year dry spell, y'all, I started getting back into rap. And at this point, it had evolved. It had a new sound. Previous to the rap I used to listen to back in the day, especially growing up in high school, like Lil Wayne, if you pronounce it out. T.I. was a big rapper I used to listen to. And this is back in the 2000s, y'all.
What you gonna do? Act a fool!
Makes me feel old, the 2000s. Some of y'all were probably born in the 2000s. But in 2016, rap had a new sound. They called it the new wave. Because this flow in this type of rap music in 2016 is when new rappers were coming out. They had a totally different flow from all rap previous to this point. It's like the flow of the lyrics, how it's delivered. Previous rap music was basically just all about the rhymes and the metaphors.
It seems as if every time I find the right girl, she turns out to be the very wrong girl. Tell me, y'all, when will this madness stop?
But this new wave of rap, I call it syllable rap. It's like syllables rapping on the beats. And sometimes people call it mumble rap because it's hard to, or some people see it as hard to understand because like it can be fast and it's like broken up into syllables.
Cut on with a speed, I don't play, bring the yellow tape, show him what he laid, disarray.
But what's cool about it is it rides the beat. I feel like it rides the beat better. So soon after getting back to the States, I would listen to this rapper called Logic. He's a rapper that I listened to really before going into the new age. But I got back into rap with his songs and stuff like that. So I would just go for runs in the neighborhood, listen to some rap music to pump me up when I'm running. And I would catch myself rapping over his songs. Like the beat he's doing, he's rapping, but I'm also doing it in my head too. And it was like I couldn't help it. Like I was just rapping in my head. Like he would do his lyrics. I was on my iPod. He was doing his lyrics over a beat. I liked the beat, and I was like, let me see what rhymes I can come up with in my head. And I just started doing it. It was like automatic kind of. And at this point, I believed I started to receive a gift from the creator, whoever I thought that was, the universe, a God, some type of God. But because previous to this, I didn't really do that. And then I just started doing it. I'm like, okay, I'm getting some type of gift. My gift's coming out or something. I really liked rap music as a teenager, but when I got into the new age, I began to hate it. I became ashamed of it. And when I came out of the new age, I began to start liking it again. Now the rap I was listening to, let me be really clear, it was not godly music. All kind of cursing, all kind of demeaning women, all kind of drugs talking in the lyrics. But today, they have an assortment of Christian rap music. And some of it sounds really good actually. And who knows, maybe God has called me to get into producing godly rap eventually. Okay, but I wanna pause right here in my testimony to go into and to biblically explain that how living a life apart from God will take you so far outside of the personality and the person that God created you to be. And it will take you so far out of this that you won't even recognize yourself, like what happened to me. We're about to get into some word. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Y'all, the word is so good. Y'all better be reading the word every single day. Not for me, for God, and for yourself. It's gonna help you too. But I do really want y'all to read it, like seriously. The more I read the word, it's the more I know God. The more I know God is the more I experience God's good qualities in my life. All right, y'all, this is Psalm 139, New International Version, verses 13 through 16. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in a secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. So in verse 13, y'all, it says God created the innermost part of who you are. God literally created you in your mother's womb. Everything about you, including your personality. Really everything that makes you, you. Verse 16, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And what we can take out of that is that God has a plan for your life, and that we all have a unique purpose that God has destined us to fulfill. And this is a little spin-off, a little side note, but I do want to add in that these verses in Psalm 139 do offer probably the best case, or one of the best cases in the Bible against abortion. It's showing how God views an unborn child, and therefore explaining God's stance on abortion. And y'all, this video is not about abortion, but I did have to add that in there because it connects. There is a connection in how the devil operates here. When it comes to abortion, which I hate, let me just put that out there if y'all don't know. And y'all, God hates abortion too. And the Bible says we should hate whatever God hates. As abortion is the shedding of innocent blood. And it literally says in the Bible that God hates. That's one of the key things that God hates. I think God hates 6 things. It does say God hates the shedding of innocent blood. And the unborn baby is innocent blood.
In the bottle. There we go. Get that thumb.
But when it comes to abortion, the devil takes part in destroying the personality of that person by literally destroying the person before the baby is even born. But the main topic of this video is what the devil tries to do after the baby is actually birthed. Because after the baby is born, the devil will surely try to destroy the personality, the God-given personality of that growing child. And really not just as a child, it starts as a child. That's the most pivotal time that the devil can get to somebody as a child, because they're so gullible, they're so easy to trust, and there's like sponges soaking up different things. But this can happen at any time in somebody's life. The devil tries to destroy the personality, the God-given personality of a person through different demonic belief systems, such as the New Age. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So y'all, this is what God is saying to Jeremiah, which is a person in the Bible, Old Testament, prophet. And this is not to say that we do not have free will. We do. It is to say that God made and formed us in such a way for his purposes. And God could see through the expanse of our future before we were even born. How amazing is God? Some choose to live for God and some do not. But God gave us each an individual personality that was made to glorify him. But that pesky devil, that little devil, he wants to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. And part of the way he does that is by attempting to take us as far away from our God-given identity as he can. And y'all, this all started in the Garden of Eden in Genesis, when the serpent made both Adam and Eve question their own identity as children of God and image bearers of God. So this is Genesis 3, chapter 3, verses 4 through 5. New King James Version, verse 4. Then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die. Verse 5. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, which is the apple, the fruit, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And what is so crazy, they were already like God. They were already like God in the same book in Genesis. In Genesis 1:27, before the serpent even came into the garden, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Genesis 1:27. So they were already like God. They were already made in the image of God. The serpent was just lying so hard right there, and they fell for it.
Has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden?
Gosh darn it, Adam and Eve, why? But we can't be too mad at them because we make the same stupid mistakes ourselves. But it's just, I'm like, wow. Through them, all sin came into the world. Now we got to deal with this mess. But God already took care of it on the cross through Jesus Christ. And y'all, I also want to describe how the Bible describes how we are either children of God or children of the devil, because it does relate to this personality thing I'm going over. So this is 1 John 3:10, New King James Version. In this, the children of God and the children of the devil are manifest. Whoever does not practice righteousness is not of God, nor is he, meaning they're of the devil. Nor is he who does not love his brother. So this is clearly saying if you do not love your brother, meaning love other people as yourself, or you do not practice righteousness, you do not practice a lifestyle of righteousness, you are a child of the devil. That's what it's saying, for real, for real.
You mean it this time? Yes!
And lots of people don't want to hear that, especially the children of the devil. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to actually admit that they are. But that's what the Bible says they are. And the good thing, though, is that they can be grafted into becoming children of God if they give their life to Jesus. They don't have to remain a child of the devil. I was once a child of the devil. That sounds weird to say, but that's what the Bible says. I was.
Jack said we should work together. 3 of a kind. Birds of a feather, now and forever.
I was once a child of the devil. You were once a child of the devil. We all were once that. Previously, before becoming saved, we were once a child of the devil. That's our default state because of the sin in the Garden of Eden. And so from that verse, we can infer that anybody that's not a child of God will take on the personality of their father, the devil, because any child begins to take on the characteristics of their father. And our bodies are vessels easily influenced by the spiritual realm. And I say all that to say that I believe that the longer a person is without Jesus is the more that they go away from their true selves, the person and the personality that God created them to be. And it's my theory, I don't think this is in the Bible, but it's my theory that when we are born, we are the closest to God that we will ever be before being born again. At that time, we are the most innocent, the most without sin before becoming saved. And that's why babies seem to glow and have this immense joy and have these no care in the world type attitude. But after we start making a conscious choice to sin, and I'm not sure what age this happens, but after we start doing that, that's the point at which we start going further and further away from our God-given personality, further away from our true selves. The personality that God knit together for us in our mother's womb. And when I was a teenager, I was definitely not close to the truest version of myself in Christ because I was not following God. I was not born again. I was not saved. But the further I got into sin was the more I started to change and the more that I could not recognize myself. And then once I got into the new age, y'all, it just basically drastically sped up the whole process of me changing into this different person that I did not recognize, that I don't recognize today. It's sorcery, it's witchcraft. And it's like I was going away from God at a steady pace, not being saved, because not being saved, you will go away from God's path for you. You will not have a godly personality. But the new age, the occult, it's like it just sped it up, like zzz. It just drastically sped up the whole process of me running away from God because now I was operating in the realm of sorcery. God hates that too. And I was basically speeding down the highway on the opposite side, running away from God, separating from his presence, being into those cults, being into witchcraft, into sorcery, into the new age, into the crystals, into the manifestations. And therefore, y'all, I was running away from my true identity at a very high pace. Okay, but back to this identity thing. As a kid, as a teenager, I had a certain style as a kid, I hate this word, but a certain swag. I hate that word so much, swagger. But it's basically your own style, how you move, how you walk, how you talk. It's your own style that you're confident in. That's purely your own individual swag. But y'all, the more that I fell into the new ages, the more that I lost my own style, the own characteristics, the own personality that God gave me, and the more I took on the characteristics of my father, the devil. The new age caused me to lose my own innocence, my own personality, my own style, my own soul. And I just want to show this quick clip of Space Jam, one of my favorite movies, but it basically shows a good picture of what happens when you follow the devil.
He's mine. Okay, go get him. Yeah, watch him fall.
And in that movie, they called it talent. because they were basketball players. It's the NBA movie about the NBA, Michael Jordan. And these NBA players, they had this talent, their own individual talent that they developed over time. And these aliens, you can actually see them as demons because they stole the talent of these people. These demons, these demonic aliens, whatever, go inside the people, steal their talent. And put it into this basketball and actually use for their own benefit, their own power.
Wow! He did it! I got it. I got his talent.
So it's essentially a demonic manifestation in the movie. I didn't see this as a kid, but I know it now. So back to the story though. During the season of 2016, driving Uber and getting back into rap music again.
Yeah, Uber everywhere.
I start to think about this girl who we'll call Miss B. And to make it clear for those who watched the last segment, this was not the wild girl who I described as the Uber passenger. She just reminded me of Miss B, who's actually back home in my hometown in Warner Robins, because Miss B had similar characteristics as the Uber passenger. The Uber passenger reminded me of Miss B because they're both bubbly, high energy, funny, and fun. It's just this energy that I liked. Even though the Uber passenger was wild, it was exciting at the same time. And I needed some excitement in my life, I felt. But at the time that I met Miss B, she was too young for me to do anything with. We had a 6-year age difference. So in 2016, I was 25 and she was 19. But when I met her, I was 21 and she was 15. So that could not have worked back then, and I didn't really pay her any kind of mind. She was my dad's girlfriend's daughter and visited us in Georgia for about a month. And when she leaves and goes back home to Miami, she calls me to have small talk. And on the phone, she kept talking about 15-year-old high school stuff. I think she was a freshman at the time in high school. I was 21. It was just, to me, weird. It was long distance. I think she liked me, but I mean, it was just so weird. You know, I mean, I recognized that she was a cute girl, but she was too young, yo. So I started getting distant with her because of how weird that was for me. But after about a year in Miami, she moves back to Georgia and moves in at my house where I'm staying, my dad's house. Things weren't going well for Miami. It was just a bad part of the city that she lived in, and her mom and everybody was like, she needs to come back and stay in Georgia. And Miss B's mom got married to my dad for citizenship, because Miss B's mom is Jamaican too, but she wasn't a citizen yet. So that's what they did. Got married for citizenship. So Miss B was technically my stepsister now. And I noticed that she didn't seem as interested in me as she did before. Maybe because I was being distant in the past. But at this time, I was heavy into the new age. I was weird, distant, and keeping to myself. So all that combined was like, okay, he's changed. He's a weird, different person now. So then Miss B goes back to Miami again, I guess, to try it out again to see if it's gonna work this time. And now this time I'm 23, and this is when I take my trip to Thailand. And while I'm gone in Thailand, it still doesn't work out for her in Miami. And then she moves back again into my dad's house for good this time. So y'all, when I got back from Thailand and moved back into my dad's house, it seemed like my dad had a new family. At this point, Miss B's living there, her mom and her brother. There's pictures all around the house of them and my dad, like family pictures and stuff like that. And I can't explain the feeling, but I didn't like it. Maybe because lots of sons don't like to see, I guess, their dad have a new wife, because my mom and my dad are divorced. So this was a new woman coming in, and it's like they're having family pictures and they're acting like a family and stuff, and I'm not really with it. It's just a weird feeling for me. The vibe, and I just feel like a foreigner.
Remember that, dear?
Trifle, darling.
Oh, I remember the painting.
hate to
The
brag.
painting. Vastly overrated. All the Spaniards are.
But I think right before I get back or right after, they get an apartment. They moved out of the house, but they're still over there all the time. But in 2016, once that Uber girl reminded me of Miss B, I said, let me ask Miss B out on a date. She's old enough, she's 19 now. I'm gonna ask her on a date, see what happens. So I'm outside, it's like evening time. I call her up on the phone. I'm like, yo, Miss B, I just think we should go out to dinner, and do you wanna go? She's like, yeah, cool. So the time of the date happens. So I don't remember if this was on the phone that I called a date or this was the day of, but I called a date at some time, and she's like, don't call it a date. And when I heard that, I was like, my confidence was kind of shook a little bit. I'm like, that don't feel good. Because in my head, I'm thinking, if she says not to call it a date, maybe she doesn't even see it as a date and she doesn't really see me in that way as a romantic interest. Because I mean, I don't see a problem if you're interested in somebody romantically to call it a date. But she went with me. But we ended up going to this Vietnamese restaurant and I make her laugh so much and she just smiling and happy, it seems like, and laughing at my jokes and whatever I'm saying. I'm not even really trying to joke. I'm just being silly. I'm kind of goofy naturally, y'all. You know, she's just laughing at me and stuff and it's just a good time. So I'm like, okay, maybe she is into me a little bit. Because sometimes girls can change their emotions and stuff and say one thing but mean another. So I'm like, is she interested in me or not? I'm like confused at this point, as most dudes are. We can be very oblivious when it comes to the opposite sex, which makes me realize that I always wanted a sister. And I know having a sister would have helped me to understand women better, because growing up with a woman with a sister would help me to really understand. Guys who have sisters, they're lots of times naturally, or I guess quicker, and they're better with women. They understand them better because they have one as their sister. So, but after dinner, y'all, my goal was to just take her straight back home. I saw her as really innocent. I mean, she was kind of wild and funny and exciting and just kind of adventure-y type stuff, but I didn't really see her as like this bad girl or whatever. But she asked me after dinner if I want to smoke. And then she tries to pressure me. She's like, you have to do it. You got to do it. You need this.
Being original. Say no to peer pressure. Say no may be the smartest thing you ever do.
At this point, I haven't smoked in 4 years. The vegan cult I was in, the cult leaders, they advocated against marijuana use. So I was 4 years sober from weed, and now this girl is like, you need to smoke. I like this girl. She's so attractive to me. She's 19, young, bubbly, fun, and I'm like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? But here's the thing. I told y'all in my previous testimony segments that I had bad trips with weed in the past. I got too high, had anxiety attacks, felt like I was going to hell. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, I really don't want to smoke because I don't want to ever experience that again. But a beautiful woman at that time was my kryptonite. So she's telling me I should smoke with her. I probably wanted to have sex with her and all that. So I'm like, okay. And also the way she worded why I should smoke, she kept on saying you need to. And at this point I was super spiritual, new age spiritual though. And I recognized at that time that I did not recognize myself. This was the mindset going through my head that if I smoke, it's gonna help me come back to who I was. It was an erroneous thought, but I was believing that because I was just so uptight now. I was like not cool anymore. And I was like, if I smoke, it's gonna mellow me out, chill me out. But that night we ended up smoking outside of her apartment complex. Didn't get into bad trip mode, didn't get into panic attacks. I almost got there, but I smoked just not enough to get too high. So we end up hanging out multiple times together, me and Miss B. And the second time we smoke, we go to this forest. And you're probably like, what? A forest?
Yes.
Something I thought of to do. And this is kind of my personality. I like adventurous things. I'm not sure about now, like I don't want to take on any unnecessary risks now just to have fun. But previously, I like to do adventurous things for the thrill, a little bit of risk, and just, you know, the thrill and the fun of it all. And sometimes things that were actually scary too. Like I used to love scary movies, going to haunted houses. I just like adrenaline rushes, roller coasters. In this forest in high school, I actually smoked with my friend in the same forest. So I'm like, I remember this forest. It was fun back then. Let's go back here now. Now I'm with the girl. It's gonna be me and her in the forest, and who knows what can happen. So these are just the thoughts going through my head, y'all. I'm like, maybe, you know, we can get in the forest, just me and her, we'll make out, whatever. But we had some pretty deep combos. We talked about aliens, we talked about the universe, all kind of stuff. We laughed, had some good times in the forest, and then later I decided I'm going to make a move. And I thought the weed was going to make me more calm and chill about this, but it really didn't. It kind of did, but not as much as I thought. I kept on staring at her hand. I'm like, I'm gonna grab her hand and just hold her hand. And it took me so long to actually do that. I was probably staring at her hand for about 2 minutes, just walking beside her. And then eventually I tried to go and grab her hand to just start some kind of connection. Just begin with some type of physical touch. But y'all, she pulled her hand away, and that broke my spirit so much. I was thinking like, this girl's into me, we're hanging out. She laughed at my jokes when we went to dinner. She's smoking with me in a forest. She's just hanging out with me. spending time with me. But then she pulls her hand away. And I like basically just died inside and just go into super simp mode. And if you guys don't know what a simp is, it's probably in the Urban Dictionary. It's like when a man does anything for a woman just to make her like him. He'll do anything and be anything and act any type of way that he thinks is gonna make her like him, even if that's demeaning to the man. It's basically when a man loses all confidence and is just acting like a child, like a boy. Yeah, it's a bad look. It's a really bad look.
If you win, I'll go out with you.
I start begging this girl to hold my hand. I'm like, why won't you hold my hand? And I think part of the reason that it has been so hard for me to deal with rejection from women, in my younger years, I was never really rejected that much. I had a good few times of rejection, but I had more success with women than not success. But as I got older into my 20s, that's when the rejection with women really came and hit me. And I was really never used to that, especially when I actually making a move on a woman. They usually accept. But this is the first time I go for a woman's hand to hold her hand and she pulls it away.
First, why don't I show you how I got my 8th degree love belt?
I know it's a woman's right to do that, but at the time I'm like, it just hurts so bad. Me liking somebody and they not liking you back. It's so crazy how that can be one of the worst pains you experience in life. Somebody rejecting you like that. I didn't like that feeling at all. But she still hung out with me the rest of the night. At this point in my head, I'm like, okay, I don't think she likes me. But I still have some type of hope in me. I'm like, she's still hanging out with me. She didn't ask to go home. So there's still some type of opportunity here, possibly. But in my head, all these negative thoughts are just roaming in my mind. Like, you have no hope with this girl. And it probably was true. Not because of who I am as a person, but because of who I was. My personality, I was just not myself. I was not my true self. Maybe if I was who I was truly created to be in Christ and I was living in that, living in my purpose, that would have been definitely more attractive to her. Still doesn't mean she would have liked me, because you can't force yourself to like anybody. If you don't like somebody, you just don't like them. But after that, after the forest, we go back. It just sounds hilarious, the forest. But after that, we go back into the house. My parents are not there. We go into my room, lights off.
Uh-oh.
We watch a movie, a scary movie, because I'm like, okay, let's put on a scary movie and maybe she'll get scared and want to cuddle up and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I have this PYT. Pretty young thing, laying in the bed with me, watching Chucky. I'm still confused at this point because she rejected me when I went for her hand. Now she's laying in a bed with me watching a movie with the lights off. Is she into me or is she not? I'm getting mixed signals here. Because a woman that doesn't like you, in my mind, they would not lay in the bed with you watching a movie in the dark. I was super confused. Women in the comments, let me know what you think. She might have gave me another chance, I don't know. But I was like, oh wow, this woman's in the bed with me, the lights are off, we're watching a scary movie. I need to try to make another move. But y'all, at this point, the high was wearing off. I was so anxious to make a move. I was like laying further back towards the headboard, and I was kind of like just staring at her head, the backside of her head, figuring out what type of move I was gonna make. And I was doing that for like a long time. And then eventually she says, I know you're looking at me. She said it in a way that she was not pleased, because I was being a creep.
Are you?
I was like staring at her, thinking about making a move and never doing it. It probably would have been better if I just made a move instantly, without really thinking about it, but I didn't. I was being a creep. And this is just the intro to part 7. But I wanted to explain and to go into detail of how following Satan, satanic doctrines, take you so far outside of your God-given personality that you become somebody who you were never meant to be. You become a creep. And this is a very good predecessor to the next part. Still part 7, but just the rest of part 7. And that's why I feel this part was necessary, to show and to explain with scripture how a creep actually occurs. Because I don't believe anybody living in their God-given personality, who's living for God, can be a creep. I don't think that can ever happen. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna state that it can't happen. If you're acting in the Holy Spirit, with the Spirit of God, you can't be a creep. So it was the Antichrist spirit that I was following that made me into that creepy person. Praise God. Thank you, Lord, for changing me, for getting me out of that creepy personality and bringing me into my true God-given personality, who I am in Christ Jesus. Thank you, Lord. And you who are watching, thank Thank God for that. So if you made it this far, give the video a thumbs up for the algorithm to push us out so more people can see this, y'all. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And you're gonna want to stay tuned for the rest of part 7 because it's going to be so crazy, y'all. What I say. I'm not even sure if I should reveal it publicly. So I'm going to have to go to my therapist. I see a therapist right now, a Christian therapist. I'm gonna have to go to him, explain what I plan on saying to the world to see if he will actually recommend that I would actually share what I'm thinking about sharing. Because I don't know if I should. I want to because it's in my testimony, but I don't know if I should. The Bible says to seek godly counsel. Yes, I can go to God about this myself and pray about it, but he also uses and speaks through other men of God, other men and women of God. So I'm going to my Christian therapist to seek godly counsel to see if I should actually share what I'm planning to share. That's how crazy this is. So stay tuned for that, y'all. And you can check my playlist right here. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Playlist, 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 dance, playlist, dance.